Welcome to a brand new episode of Pop Kannon. This is episode 52. My name is Jordan.
I'm Robert.
My name's Paul.
And I'm Joe.
Welcome, and today we have the task ahead of us to dissect and talk about Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Holy fucking shit. It happened, guys.
It sure fucking did.
4 hours of Zack Snyder's Justice League dropped on HBO Max last Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, we have all seen it. So, who wants to start initial thoughts?
Joe, when the credits rolled, what did you think?
Finally. I think I'm probably like the minority that thought, well, maybe I'm wrong, but I thought this movie was just too fucking long. I felt there was a lot of fat that could have and should have been cut. I thought that we overused the slow motion a lot. But overall, like, I was, somehow able to weed that out in my mind, and I did really enjoy this. I think there is a really good movie there. I think it just was a little
bloated.
Yeah. I think he just kind of let himself go. Like, he didn't really think he needed to limit himself, which, like, that's an artist's choice in a way. But I think that this movie could have been cut down a lot. But all in all, as long as you know going in that you're going to be there for 4 hours, and you are committed to these characters, I think you'll probably have a good time.
So I feel like somehow I never felt bored watching this movie, which is crazy with it being 4 hours and everything. It did kind of feel like, I gotta camp out for the night. After this is over, my day's over. But yeah, somehow I never felt like, oh, this is kind of lingering. You know what I mean? There was always something new and something interesting happening. And I guess, like, for when you're coming at it from, how is this different from the theatrical cut, which I know we didn't really want to get into that too much, but, like, I made the connections, like, as I was watching it. I didn't want to, but it just happened. Mm-hmm. But anyway, I mean, it's long as fuck, and that makes it hard to, like, want to watch again.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to watch it again. I just don't know when I'm gonna, like, do it. I guess I'd have to, like, split it up, which is fine. But anyway, I like the movie. It's not perfect, and I can agree that, maybe the, like, Martian Manhunter thing, like, didn't need to be there, but I think it's only there because, like, Zack Snyder doesn't think there's gonna be another movie, so he's like, all right, well, I might as well just throw it in there, like, if this is gonna be the last one, I might as well. It's already 4 hours.
I might as well complete the thought.
Yeah.
Because in the original production artwork and posters that we got, it was Unite the Seven.
Oh,
we
really?
Didn't know what that meant. We were assuming 7 Justice League members, and then throughout, I was always trying to count, and I'm like, with Superman, that's 6. Who's 7? And you get the answer at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
The tiny man in Batman's pocket.
But credits roll for me, and I was like, I couldn't believe all that we got. All of the avenues that it went down, and how in a team-up movie, I never felt, or I didn't feel at the end of it, like I wanted to, like, nobody got enough screen time. Mm-hmm. I felt like we spent an equal amount of time with everybody, it seemed like. Everybody had their own kind of, like, vignette sort of thing at the beginning, and then we introduce them, and then we get them together, and they each have their moment to do a thing by themselves. Like, everybody had that. I think the only person that I wanted to see more of was Darkseid. Like, that's when the movie ended. I was like, oh
Yeah.
That, for me, that was the only thing, you know. But otherwise, I can't believe how much we got, and how like generous with the levels of all of the different things that we went through, and pointed everybody at the same thing and then got through it together. Like, it felt like the first time I read I think it's Mark Waid and Alex Ross Justice graphic novel, not Kingdom Come, which is significantly smaller, but Justice. Like, that's what it felt like. Like, once that was over, I was like, wow, we were all over the place in that, and it was fucking awesome.
Right. I mean, that's what the comic books are like.
Yeah, it felt like such a comic book experience.
Yeah.
Especially in the transitions from character to character and story beat to story beat. It felt like turn page, here we are. Mm-hmm. I know there's all the criticism with Zack Snyder and his slow-mo, but like, if you didn't know that was going to happen coming in, like, you've never seen another one of his films, because he fucking loves it, and that's just it. You know what I mean? That's just it. You know?
Yeah, but I don't need to see Lois getting coffee in slow motion.
I think whenever like the slow motion like really lingers, and it's especially in an action sequence, I always think of it as a splash page.
Yeah, that's true. And like in the action sequences, like, I don't necessarily fault it. Like, I think it works there, but I think it has a place, and I don't know that it always belonged where it was used.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
Credits roll for me, and I wanted more, honestly. I wanted more from the universe. I wanted to see more of these characters. Not saying that I didn't get enough, because I think we got plenty as far as one singular film is concerned. I was really satisfied with all of like the extra stuff that we got and the differences from the theatrical release. It felt like justified that this artist got his opportunity to tell his story his way, the way that he envisioned originally.
For better or worse, I feel.
Yeah,
like.
For better or worse. And whether or not we get more of that is yet to be seen, whatever. I'm not going to hold my breath.
No.
Because I'm very satisfied. That's basically the one word that, like, I feel about the Snyder cut of Justice League, is I feel satisfied having watched it. All 4 hours, for better or worse. Whether or not the scene needed to be there or not, because I'm an editor and you could pull things out, you could still make sense, you could make the movie 3 hours and it would still be good. But I'm appreciative of what we did get. So,
and I think either Paul or Joe had mentioned a little bit of the drag of it as it went on, and I didn't feel it necessarily, but there was a point in the movie where I was like, all right, where the fuck is Superman? You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't like tired of what we were getting, but I was like, I know we have to get there, and we're still like miles away from that, you know, because he doesn't show up until I think it's like 2:38, something like that.
Yeah, like right before the climax. Because, like, I mean, where else could you put him? Like, I feel like that's where he has to go.
Like, I was at that point, I was like, okay, can we get to, and then we have to go through the entire awakening of him, which is like also a very, very, very long scene with a lot of slow motion. That I didn't hate. I just was like, I know where we're going.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what kind of sucks about it. And I wish I could find somebody that did not see the theatrical release and then just watch this 100% fresh, never having known what was in that film.
That was Cheyenne's experience.
And it was
That's
good.
cool.
Go get her.
And she even said to me today, I'm like really glad that I just went in seeing like what he originally wanted it to be. She was like, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah, because I think it would vastly have changed my experience if, like Paul was saying, I wasn't calling out, oh, there's that.
Yeah. When's Superman
Yeah.
gonna get here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like that kind of shit. Like that's really what was, I feel like, detrimental to it for me. But all of the stuff that was fresh to this was like very welcome.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then like more context on certain things and stuff like
I liked all of the, I mean, he probably had the least amount, but I loved all of the stuff with Barry.
that. Yeah.
And I like that he was way less like a fucking kooky Nimrod and
Right.
and
I think
more like he makes jokes because he's the youngest one and kind of doesn't understand the gravity of what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, and I think he uses it as a defense mechanism. Like,
Yeah.
he makes the jokes because he's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's insanely relatable to everybody as opposed to whatever happened the last time.
I think he gets like some of the best scenes, like
Yeah.
running back into the past. It's badass. It was so cool watching people like rematerialize.
Yeah, like from bone to muscle tissue to flesh
Yeah.
and like the blood and like the eyeballs like appearing and that was
Yeah.
fucking amazing.
Yeah, I love that. And then of course the scene where he's like running behind Superman and Superman's eye just moves. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like that's an underrated scene. Like
That was left in the theatrical one though, wasn't it?
it was.
Yeah.
It was.
It differently
And it
though.
still plays.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it was framed, I feel like, so much differently in that.
Okay.
And then in this, it was way more serious and way more like Barry's not a funny fucking dog making a face. He's like trying to understand how that happened.
Yeah.
You know, like, because when he sees Superman's eye turn, he does that face, but we don't hold on that face and cut back to that face 6 times. We hits his reaction, and then he's like, "I've got to get away from him."
Yeah.
You know, and then Superman, and I love that in the context of that scene, they prove who's faster, but because it's Barry, or he doesn't need to exist anyway.
Yeah. Well, not yeah. Superman's
fast enough, but he's not as fast as Barry.
and he can't run into the past.
Right.
He's not the fastest man alive.
Exactly. But so that scene's framed totally differently than it was originally, and it like plays way more serious, and it's almost more menacing of Superman because he looks like he's out to like get him.
Yeah, and then I think he has the best intro, like how everybody gets like their own like little intro.
Yeah.
I think he has the best one. Like that song, I felt like the other songs were kind of annoying in like a weird way for like the other characters. Like the King's song for like Arthur, I was like, oh, it's kind of weird. Like it was like trying too hard or something. But the song that played for the Flash one was awesome, and like just how that whole scene plays out is like great to watch. The scene where they bring Superman back, I really loved the little touch in the dialogue where after Cyborg gets a glimpse of the apocalypse future, he says no. He whispers no, and then Flash says go.
Go?
Yeah.
which I think is like a little seed. That's like planting a little seed. Like he shouldn't have run. He shouldn't have done it.
Right.
Like we're on
the path of future dissension.
Yes.
Among the ranks because he didn't hear him right.
Well, isn't that what Cyborg's like the grid or whatever you call it? I know it's the grid in Doom Patrol. I don't know if it's throughout.
Yeah.
But, it says like the future is taking root in the present.
Mm-hmm.
After he has that vision and after Flash does it.
That's the AI of the ship talking to him.
Oh, okay.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Shit.
that's the AI of the ship talking to him.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And it's also like acknowledging the apocalypse technology is hostile and corrupt and shit, and it's like, don't do this. The ship's like, don't do this, over and over again. But that's like the ship telling them not to do it, because the ship also speaks to Superman, obviously, and then also Lex in BVS. And like Cyborg, dude.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I was gonna say his intro for me was my favorite of all of the characters. I think of the new characters, anyway.
I agree. Cyborg, I have kind of issues with Aquaman and Flash's intros in this, and even Wonder Woman's to an extent. But Cyborg's didn't feel out of place because everything about Cyborg's story here fed the narrative.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought he got a very complete story.
Yeah.
Ray Fisher's amazing.
He is.
It's even like great to look at, like you say Barry's the youngest, but I think he and Cyborg are roughly the same age, but they're just such different people.
I wasn't even thinking of Cyborg when I said that, but yeah, you're right.
Well, just
Cyborg,
because like
in this is like he's like 19.
Yeah. Even though like Ray Fisher's like a 30-year-old man playing a college student, but like also just the trauma that he's experienced. I don't even know what the timeline's supposed to be here. It's like within, at least less than a year, he's experienced all this, and he's still actively going through it.
Yeah.
I loved Cyborg's story, but like Barry's opening scene, it was really cool effects, but it didn't serve the narrative. Like it was just this is Barry. And here's
he does this.
15 minutes of him going fast. Whereas, like, the conversation with Batman serves the exact same purpose to show, like, this is the extent of his ability. Granted, like, it's not as beautiful of a scene.
Yeah.
But, like, it also moves the narrative forward.
Yeah.
Right.
And then Wonder Woman, like, blowing up a school. Like, I'm like, what's the point besides to show what her gauntlets
That was a bank.
did?
That wasn't a school.
Blowing up a school.
No, there was just a school trip.
What
thing.
school
It was like
goes
a
to the
field
bank?
trip.
Yeah, no, they were on a
trip.
field
They're
trip.
finance students. I think it was a museum.
Yeah, no, I don't think
it was a
they were
bank.
robbing anything. They were just trying to make like a weird statement.
Yeah, they were just going to blow it up.
Yeah.
They're reactionary terrorists who want to turn the clock back in Europe 100 years.
What terrorist, like, honestly believes that they're a terrorist in their head? Like, who are you? I'm a terrorist!
He was in the lasso of Hestia, and it compelled him to tell the truth.
It's not like
There you
your
go,
truth,
yeah.
it's factual truth. You're objectively a terrorist, and you...
Yeah, like it's objective truth. That's what the
fucking
lasso
great.
compels you to say.
That doesn't make any fucking sense.
The objective truth. He's read about himself. He knows he's a terrorist.
In all honesty, though, I kind of wish that those terrorists were actually connected to a bit more
the
to
main
plot.
story. Yeah.
Like if there was like
Yeah.
a dark side cult that like existed on Earth for like hundreds of years or something.
Right. And they know he's coming or something.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I got
See,
it.
I feel like
I'm okay with it being disconnected because it's just
Okay.
another thing that we get to see Wonder Woman, like, what she's
Yeah.
up to.
The existence of that sequence justifies the entire existence of Wonder Woman 84. Because she's in different cities, popping up to protect things and then disappearing again. Because she wound up leaving wherever she was, because I think that was London, and then wound up going to France or something like that, right? Like, she didn't stay in the same city.
Yeah.
So I think she wound up leaving because she showed up, did something, and then had to go to another place. But I like that scene because the terrorists themselves were more sinister. They're way more menacing, and they're not like a fart joke.
Right.
Like, we took them seriously, and then they got handled seriously. I like that.
Speaking of seriously, like when she shows up and is doing the gauntlets and deflecting the bullets and seeing that in like full speed looked amazing.
No, but that scene was very powerful, and then she has that moment with the little girl.
Yeah.
But I think as it compares to like reading a graphic novel, the whole film, like that scene ends perfectly with a focus on a cop that we don't know, and he sees the guy's hat land on the car. so he knows what happened there. That feels like it's 2 panels at the end of an arc to go to the next thing. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it feels like in comic books we kind of like will get that. You'll be like, why are we looking at the cop suddenly? And then the hat lands. You're like, oh shit, that guy blew up and he's dead now. And then we move to the next. You flip the page and you're in another place talking about something else.
So the action in this is amazing. Like, I won't fault that, except for sometimes where it just awkwardly stops. But that doesn't happen here. It was a great action scene, but like it didn't tie into the greater narrative. Like, her seeing the bonfire, that gets her involved in the story.
Right.
But her one-off scene, and like I understand that everybody got their hero moment, showing them being a hero out in the world. But it just, honestly, like the comment about Wonder Woman 84 is a good point, because a lot of these scenes, it feels like they're trying to make a movie for every character instead of just making one movie.
This movie, right?
Yeah. Like I didn't need a Flash origin story, not origin story, but like it's like a mini kind of Flash movie that's not as good as a full Flash movie would have been.
Right. To see stuff. But I am struck by how we basically have an origin for everybody.
Yeah.
Except Flash.
Yeah.
Like, and that's through both times that we've or the only time that we've seen him, actually. But even in the other cut of this, there's no lightning strike, or we just know that he can go fucking super fast and we don't know how, which I appreciate, that they know that you just know that the Flash fucking runs fast, and that's really all you need to know.
Right, exactly.
You know, they know that you have a base level information of what that character is, and then they can just keep going, as opposed to like,
right,
do we have to show his mom getting killed and having to go through, you know what I mean? Like,
and that's the thing. For this movie, I don't need to know that he's, between jobs. I don't need to know that his dad's in prison for the murder of his mother that he didn't commit. Which, like, if I didn't, like, watch the CW show or read the comics, I'm like, this is a lot of information just getting thrown at me. And it's the same with Aquaman. It's a lot of just conversations that, like, if I hadn't seen the Aquaman movie, I wouldn't know personally, because I am just not as into DC. Right. But, like, they're just like, your mother's responsibility to go to the surface and take up her trident. And I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ. He lives underwater.
That's funny, though, because this movie on the timeline takes place before Aquaman does.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And it was always intended to.
Right. And I get that he's the outcast king or whatever, but, like, it's just through these, like, slowdowns of dialogue that you're just throwing a lot of exposition about a character at me that doesn't really matter a whole ton to the greater narrative. Like, the stuff about, like, the Amazons and the Atlanteans went to war at one point, that was, like, an interesting little, like, just a one throwaway that's like, oh, I would like to know more about that. Maybe I'll go see one of these other movies sometime. But it's like, I don't know, it's a lot of stuff. The only other thing in Diana's opening scene that, like, I could justify it serving the greater narrative was just showing that, like, her gauntlets could vaporize a lesser man, but then every other time she uses them, they don't do anything against who she's using them against. Except...
but they're not lesser men.
Yeah. But there is a good line when she's doing that scene with Alfred, who, like, Jeremy Irons is amazing in this whole movie.
Oh, my God. Yes.
It was, like, a little distracting after having seen Watchmen with him in it to, like, not connecting with that character, which I definitely didn't, obviously didn't do back then. But when she's looking at the gauntlets that he's making, and she's just like, oh, you should make a lasso too, because she realizes that Batman's copying her tech. That, like, I got a chuckle out of that. And, like,
it's such a that's such a great moment. And then he uses it and it burns up, like, instantly.
I really liked the dialogue between her and Batman throughout the entire film.
It's a lot better. But another thing that I did want to say about Wonder Woman was that every motherfucking time she was on the screen, they played the
oh my
and
God.
every time that happened, I did that out loud, just to upset my girlfriend.
It's so much.
So it's really disheartening to me because she has like the greatest theme track right now in that universe and probably across comic book movies in general. Like, the single greatest fucking thing that we've ever heard. Like, the first time I heard that, it struck me so hard. I literally cried at. It made me so fucking emotional. Because there was so much to it. And then they played it, like, a couple times here and there. But then they would cut back into the ancestral yelling. And I was like, I don't want any more of that. I don't.
It was
I really
like
don't.
every single time.
If they use it as a musical cue, it's one thing. If they used it where she was doing something that her Amazonian sisters did years ago while they were like, and they used it at that point, and then they use the music to be like a callback to the thing that she's doing, that's one thing. But they did not do that.
No.
They were just playing it every time we saw her, and it got really distracting.
Yeah, in the action scenes, it was like every time.
And when she's fighting Steppenwolf and she goes over him and she hits the slow-mo, we get the good song and then it hits the slow-mo and we just drop it. And we go right into the ancestral yelling. And I was like...
It was the same feeling as, like, Civil War. Every time you see Black Panther, it's like Africa.mp3. And you're just like, why are we doing this?
Dude, same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
And it becomes distracting after a while because then your attention diverts from what you're seeing to what you're hearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right. Every time he came on screen, he was just like, "Ha!"
And then Ryan Coogler said, "We don't do that here."
Oh fuck. Music-wise, I love them bringing back the song from the beginning for the opening prologue where Superman and Doomsday die. I think it's called like No Big Lie or No Lie or something like that. But it's the same song from like the open of BVS. The Beautiful Lie, that's it.
Yeah.
That's such a good track.
Yeah, it is.
And they use it here in where Superman dies and Doomsday dies, and there's like that shockwave that goes throughout the world.
Yeah.
That I felt like a lot more people were going to crush in their reviews, and nobody said anything about it as far as I've seen, which I was like really surprised by because it's kind of hokey. But to me, that's what Lex Luthor is talking about at the end of BVS when he says that the bell has been rung.
Yeah.
That's the bell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Earth is open for business now because the Kryptonian's dead.
Yeah.
And also there's a second wave because Doomsday dies because he's technically also Kryptonian.
Yeah. I mean, and he was like the last Kryptonian, so it's like that's why it's a bigger deal.
Right.
I remember thinking like when it all started, first like it was a really nice transition from the DC logo straight into that opening. Like it was a tableau on like a tableau. But I remember thinking like, oh, we're getting a director's cut of the end of Batman Superman 2.
I was very surprised that he went back to it. I was very surprised because I thought it was going to pick up from any other thing. I did not expect to get the end of that movie kind of.
Well, because the implication is this is like immediately after Batman versus Superman 2, like within like a week or so at least.
Yeah, it seems like.
Yeah.
I couldn't really tell, but it seems like it's in the immediate present. It's not like a year later or something like that.
Yeah, it feels like within like 2 to 3 weeks that we're getting all of this unfolding.
So in Superman's resurrection, when he's finally up in the sky, and he comes down and he's dealing with everyone, his laser vision was insane. Like the visual of the laser coming out of it looked like it was like a faucet. Like it wasn't controlled and it wasn't focused. It was like waves of it coming out. It was very untrained and uncoordinated, and I think that's supposed to speak to the fact that maybe there's energy buildup, maybe there's like any sort of like residual or something like that, but also being like empowered now suddenly out of nowhere. It's like exploding out of him. Because when it shows it, when he points towards Batman, I guess, and he's like cutting that car in half, it looks like it's just leaking onto that car and just melting it. So I was like, holy shit, that was terrifying. Terrifying.
Yeah, I think that whole scene, he's supposed to like be in shock, right?
Right.
Like it's his fight or flight is just at like 11, and for a being of his caliber is a terrifying thing. Bruce in that whole scene is just like terrified, because like first, like he's not there because he can't obviously keep up with the other four, so like, they're the ones that get there first, but then it's all of them just trying to slow Superman down, and Bruce like, oh no.
Yeah. I love that he's like in the background pulling people to like a safe distance and like stuff like doing things that make sense that Bruce Wayne would be doing if he can't be in the front fighting somebody.
For sure. Yeah, like he knows where he's useful.
Yeah.
Which I think they really did a good job with Batman in this movie, where they placed him in the battles and what role he had going throughout. So I was a big fan of that.
It was really like, he's great as Batman.
Yeah, he really is.
So great as Batman. It just feels like he fucking gets it. Like that's really, he just like, there's no uneasiness with like Val Kilmer, and there's no like pomposity from George Clooney. Like Ben Affleck feels like he's Bruce Wayne, like, and that's it. And it's awesome to see him in the cowl, in the suit, walking around doing shit. Like even when they're walking down like hallways and stuff, I'm like, God, he looks fucking great in that costume.
Yeah, seriously. I think it's the best suit.
I was thinking about the idea of them filming that, and Ben is in this fucking big rubber suit, and Ray Fisher's in a sock.
Yeah.
He's in a fucking morph suit with shit on him, and like the two of them are just like looking at each other like.
Yeah, and I was really happy that they brought the BVS suit back, like, to be used way more, because I love that suit.
It is awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
I prefer that suit to the Justice League suit, to like the tack suit. But,
Yeah.
Really, really nice to see Ben back in that cowl.
Even though he doesn't put it on until 2 hours in.
But he doesn't need to. That's the thing.
He's rich, and he bought the bank, Joe. I'm so glad that line remained.
Yeah. That's the other thing, though. Is there anybody in this movie who doesn't know that Bruce Wayne is Batman? Every single person knows. Besides, like, maybe Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah, he doesn't know. He has no idea.
Well, when Cyborg first saw him, he was like, I wasn't sure you were real.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That was cute.
Which is interesting because he's had access to the internet.
That much.
So,
Right.
like...
Yeah. And he plays for Gotham City University. You'd think that, like, the Batman would come up.
Yeah. And he learned so much about, like, he even, like, figured out who Diana was.
Right.
Like, within 10 minutes. But, yeah, that was, like,
But Bruce is behind, like, 6 proxies, so...
I was going to say, it goes to show, like, how powerful the Bat computer is compared to Cyborg.
Yeah.
Which is an interesting thought project. So at the end, when he meets the Martian Manhunter, it's really difficult to try to pretend that those were like that was all filmed together. Because he's so much smaller, it's fucking frightening.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, is he okay?
He's very calm about it, too. He's just like, hey.
Yeah, but no, like, is like Bruce like lost a significant amount of, like, Ben Affleck lost a significant amount of body weight, and I just hope that he's all right. Like, because the difference in size from the beginning of that movie to the end, you're like, that really took a lot out of him, dude.
I think it's, like, more concerning how much he packed on for the movie, really. Like, now he's just living a normal person's life.
That's it. I mean, you sign on the dotted line, you're supposed to bulk up unless you're Robert Pattinson.
Exactly.
Who cares? Anyway.
So, you brought up Martian Manhunter.
I did.
What was everyone's opinion on Martian Manhunter being in the film?
I'll go first. I loved having Martian Manhunter in the CGI flesh. I think it's cool because there was like that rumor, and then what was it, like a storyboard that leaked that was like that actor from Man of Steel was actually Martian Manhunter all along, and this was the plan for it and shit. So to see it like happen is awesome. Like, I'm never gonna be mad about getting another, like, for better or worse, tentpole character in DC like on film. I don't know how I like how it frames the conversation that he technically had with Lois, because it was a very hearted conversation with her mother-in-law or would-be mother-in-law. And then it, like, to have that be Martian Manhunter, and he's like, the world needs Lois Lane. Like, what does he know about everything else that he's not he's not showing his fucking notes here, and that's kind of fucked up, man. Like, what does he know? Like, that's what I took away from that. But I loved seeing him, and then having them double up at the end and him introduce himself to Bruce. I thought was like a cool way for that character to be like, I've waited way too long. So now I'm here to help out in any way that I can. And Batman had just finished saying, we got room for more chairs or whatever.
I really liked the addition of Martian Manhunter, and I liked that it turned out to be General Swanwick as Martian Manhunter. Just having him around in Man of Steel and BVS, it almost makes me wonder if he's been Swanwick the entire time, or if he's more recently become Swanwick.
I mean, I feel like the implication of him even turning into Swanwick is to tell you that that's been him all along. You know what I mean?
But in my head canon, I'm just like, it leaves it open.
I'm just saying, like, there's no other reason for him to even turn into that guy other than to show you that's who he was.
Yeah.
But was he Martha all along?
Oh shit.
But yeah, I agree with you there, Yezi. Like, yeah, that was a really nice scene with Martha and Lois, and then it really just got undercut a bit by that reveal that didn't serve the narrative at all, except to, like, well,
double
I have
him
this
back
scene with Bruce at the end, so I have to have him somewhere.
But really, it really wouldn't have even mattered because it didn't affect Bruce in any way. But what angle is Martian Manhunter playing here? That's what I'm concerned about.
Well, I think that storyboard, since it leaked and it kind of helped start this whole thing. I feel like that scene needed to be in there.
Right.
And since he added that second scene, I feel like we could have done away and just let it be Martha.
Mm-hmm. But also, the original thought for the after scene was, I'm assuming that was where everybody's talking about Jon Stewart was supposed to be. Yeah. So, really, you wouldn't have had Martian Manhunter otherwise.
Yeah. For me, it's just like another one of those things where I was like, oh, well, this is my last one, so I'll just fucking throw it in there.
Yeah.
But I agree. I totally agree, though. Like, it would have been different if, like, we felt like Lois being a reporter again was something that, like, served the narrative.
Maybe it's because he had 4 hours of screen time and he didn't devote all of it to Lois Lane in this movie. So this was like an apology. Because she's overexposed in BVS. We get way too much of her in BVS. And then the recoil here is we've pulled back on Lois Lane tremendously. Which, overall, I think I'm thankful for, because it would have just been another long thing for Lois Lane to do nothing.
That we would have gotten a slow motion scene of her drinking coffee. Oh, wait, we did. Never mind. Speaking of someone who got another slow motion introduction, let's talk about Aquaman for a quick second, because we really didn't touch on him.
No, not yet.
I enjoyed his introduction with Bruce, where they had their back and forth conversation.
Comes in on the king tide.
Yeah. Like, the entire time, knowing that Bruce knows that he's Aquaman. Yeah. And the way that he plays that scene, like, worked so well for me. It makes me think, like, yeah, that's believable that Bruce would go do something like that.
He says he climbed over the mountain.
Yeah, I feel like the additional dialogue there like made it feel so much. I don't know. I guess it's better. I don't know. Like it felt more important.
Yeah.
Paul, you had mentioned the song was weird.
Yeah. I thought that was kind of.
You guys
agree.
didn't like Midsummer?
Yeah, it definitely just reminded me of a scene from Midsummer.
Yeah, I guess it kind of does.
But so I know that everybody is like killing that part of the scene, and I get it to an extent because it's really weird and it's kind of out of left field and there's no real explanation for it. But what I took from it was that they treat him like God. There's such a reverence for when the Aquaman comes to town that he's bestowed upon us through, like the winter and they can't get boats in and shit like that. He brings food for them and all of that stuff. So like he walks among them and they're like, oh my God, they follow him around and shit like that. So they sing songs when he returns to the sea and they snatch up his belongings that he leaves and they give them back to him when he comes back.
I get that, but
that's just what I took from it. Dude, it's jarring and it's strange, but I'm just saying, like, I don't hate it because the logic behind it is sound.
Yeah.
It's weird, but you don't live in Iceland. You don't know what the fuck they do.
No, but that's a really good point. And I think in these movies, they frame these characters like larger than life beings that we're not supposed to understand because we don't fully understand Superman. If a fucking alien came down from the sky, everyone would be terrified. So everyone that's arguing that Superman in these movies doesn't act like Superman is wrong.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
Because he's the most Superman he's ever been in the last quarter of this movie.
Yeah. In these movies.
In these movies. Like Man of Steel is a straight up origin. Yeah. Batman versus Superman is an interlude to this. That's what that movie is. It's the between story to get to the Justice League.
And I think it's very inspiring for Clark to come out of this and be like, I have a second chance. Like it changes his perspective.
It really does change his perspective. And when he goes to the ship to claim his suit back, he gets bombarded with messages from both of his fathers.
Yeah.
And there's always complaining about how Jonathan Kent is giving him really bad advice and Jor-El is giving him really weird advice. But I don't think anybody until this considered that it wasn't supposed to be two separate pieces of information Clark was taking in. It was one. And then they layer that dialogue to make a really compelling thought for him to then come back. And then they have that. The one of the visuals that I literally got choked up on was Superman looking at Earth again after he has the suit on. I was so struck by that. I love that still.
I don't know if you noticed, but some of the voiceovers from his dad's was new dialogue, which I guess implies that he communed with them while he was dead. It seems to imply that there's a plane of existence in the DCEU.
Beyond, right?
Yeah,
where Superman was for that time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's awesome.
It's a really interesting thought.
Yeah.
And we get the black suit out of that.
Yeah, the black suit was fucking great.
The logical sense that I took from that is that he's a being that gets his power from the sun and needs to absorb as much of its radiation as possible. So he's wearing black. Just like in the summertime when I wear a black shirt, it's very fucking hot. It tracks, guys. That's all I'm saying. It's not fucking bogus and stupid.
The practical effects.
It's literally practical.
I didn't have any issues with the black suit.
I think it's awesome.
I mean, but I wouldn't have had an issue if he picked
the red one,
a brighter, normal colored suit, or a darker suit. ultimately doesn't matter. It's about how the character acts.
Yeah.
It's cool. I like the black suit. I think it's interesting that they went in post and digitally changed it to be black.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's Zack Snyder's movie, so like let him do what he wants to do. As far as like, this is my last hurrah. I wanted to make a Superman movie with a black suit.
I thought he shot it in black and they recolored it for the theatrical one.
No, they didn't let him do black and white, but he used a specific blue or something.
That he could just
I read
turn-
something about it.
He's like, I'm gonna.
Yeah. No, exactly. He was like, in case I ever get a director's cut or some shit like that.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
To make it
turns
like
out that
easier in post to change.
He gave himself a back door to change the color of the suit if he wanted to.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
I like the fact that he had so much creative freedom on this.
Yeah.
And I think it goes to show how influential streaming services are when it comes to content they produce. They could drop a 4-hour movie on your laps and crash the service.
Or accidentally leak it twice.
Yeah.
Did you guys have
That too.
any particular opinion about the ratio, the 4:3?
I
Oh,
didn't really notice anything.
I'm cool with the 4:3 ratio, man. But then again, I don't have problems watching strange aspect ratios in film. I don't have any problem. Like, maybe it might be jarring to someone who's used to like widescreen format.
Yeah, I mean,
I have so many thoughts on this.
Like, but I don't get the hate.
No, I love that he did it in 4:3 because first of all, it's immediately different than anything you're going to watch on that service, instantly. But
No, they
he
got
did
Looney
it-
Tunes. So
Well, but like anything new, I guess. But he did it in 4:3 because he wanted it. It was streamlined for IMAX, and that is the aspect ratio of IMAX. And he didn't want to fucking flip back and forth between the aspect ratios, and he didn't want to do it in like part of telling the story where like the KnightMare is in widescreen, so you know it's part of the simulation Westworld. Like he put it in the frame that he wanted, and if he letterboxed it, we would have lost frame, like part of the frame,
yeah.
because it was shot for that. So that's how the fuck you get to see it when it's shot that way. If he fucking letterboxed it, especially like I felt like at the beginning of the movie, some of the camera was like really, really tight.
Mm-hmm.
And like if they letterboxed that, you would have been like seeing people here, I feel like. I mean, they probably would have pulled it down, but I'm just saying, like, you would lose some of what the intent of seeing everything is. And I don't like that. Like when I would buy DVDs in the past, I would buy full screen. I hated widescreen anyway. So like I want the entire frame full.
Well, all the Joker shit was like just his fucking face.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that was all
that
filmed
would have
after
been
the
fucked.
Yeah, that was all filmed like for
Afterwards.
this.
yeah, like I understood it was intended to be in IMAX, and I did appreciate that it was that throughout.
Yeah.
Because I saw Batman versus Superman in IMAX, but the whole thing wasn't shot in IMAX, and that was really frustrating.
Yeah.
For it to
Okay.
switch.
See, I never even noticed that shit, but I know that fucking bugs the hell out of people.
Yeah. So as long like
That's
it was,
why I don't like going to see movies in IMAX.
it was the same throughout, which I did appreciate, and it was distracting at some parts because it's a very dark colored movie, and just like the state of kind of modern colors is that like there's not really true blacks in the screen ever, so having like the true black on the side like bleeding right into whatever shadow was like half the screen was a little frustrating. The way everything was framed for the most part was really good. Everything used the frame very nicely. The only part that really frustrated me, like it stuck out both times I watched it, was whenever Mira does like the air bubble to talk, it's just this really like jarring over the shoulder that like didn't feel very creative.
Okay.
And
yeah.
like there's so
Okay.
much like room in the space, and it's especially jarring because like first there's that guard that comes to report to her before Steppenwolf shows up, And then after the fight, she does the same thing with Aquaman, and it's like the same framing exactly. And like just for everything else being very like creatively done and like the camera work being really beautiful, that one moment just like felt wrong.
Because they went over the shoulder twice back to back, and it's weird to do that.
Yeah.
And it stands out in a movie that's 4 hours long, filled with such beautiful cinematography and shot composition.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
When he also got like 6 angles of every other scene and showed you almost all of them. Like I got to see that woman dying under a horse from every possible angle.
Yeah. Yeah, because we got the tracking, then we got like and then we got the other one from the other side. Yeah, it was a lot.
And
There's at least
aerial.
4.
Yeah,
and then the aerial above her.
There were a lot of really weird cuts like that I noticed. Like really weird, like a couple frames of an angle, and then we cut to a different one. It just felt...
Well, that's when Darkseid says, ready the ships, we'll do it the old way, or whatever, and then he starts walking from where he was to the other end of the dead-end platform.
Yeah.
And we just kind of swing the camera around him, which is cool to watch. Darkseid and Desaad and Granny Goodness all hanging out there with all the I almost said fucking demogorgons, dude.
With all the
fucking parademons lined up. I swear to God, that's the word that came up in my head. Holy shit. But we just kind of, like, nothing happens. The camera just kind of goes around them, and then the scene's over. And it was like, I thought like something out, because the implication that he's turned around and walking that way, and we're following him walking that way, the implication is that something else is there that we're going to see, and then we just don't.
Yeah.
So those are the things that, when you guys were talking about the runtime, which I'm neither here nor there about, I'll watch a fucking 4-hour movie, I'll find the time for it. Those are like things that just like in editing, you would just like, okay, well, we could cut that the fuck down. We could cut that the fuck down. But I don't think that he necessarily went through and trimmed scenes. I think he filmed scenes, completed.
He didn't have to.
Yeah, and then just, okay, on the timeline it goes here, and that's
It's
it.
his fucking script. Just
That's the editing job that was done to it, was completing the actual frame, like, and then dropping it on the timeline, and we're not trimming edges at all. We're just leaving it in.
But that's the thing, though. Like, he knew however many years ago going in, like, they're not going to let me put a 4-hour movie on screen. So, like, why did he plan a 4-hour movie?
I think it's one of those things. It's probably one of those things where, because I know Chris Terrio is credited almost solely with the screenplay.
Yeah.
But story by is him and Zach.
Yeah.
So it's probably one of those things where they wrote a script together that they both really fucking like, and cutting it up made them very upset, and they didn't want to remove any parts of it, you know? Like, that's like, to me, that's really what I think. They just like, they have that script, which is probably like this, and he was just like, I'm not removing a page of this. If you're letting me do it, I'm doing the whole thing, and that's that. And they were like, you're $70 million, fucking figure it out, I guess. Like,
when he was editing this movie, like, I don't think if Zack Snyder's original Justice League film came out in 2017 without all the Joss Whedon stuff, I don't think we would have gotten a 4-hour film. I don't think we would have even gotten a 3-hour film.
I think this turned into them putting as much of what the plan was for 2 and 3 into it as possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they had the plan for 1, and then the plan was to do 3 of them in his head. Like, his best case scenario was he did 3 Justice League movies.
And you guys know, like, just with any movie, like, you're going to get scenes that are left on the cutting room floor. Well, with this, there's nothing. There's not going to be, like, deleted scenes released on, like,
could
or
you fucking imagine?
Scenes. Like, this is what this cut is.
Right. That's
Barry Allen takes a shit.
But really fast. And that's the point.
That's why I can't consider comparing this to, like, a theatrical release.
You can't.
You go into making the film differently. Mm-hmm. And you know that, Joe. Like, there's scenes that just you cut. You filmed it. Yeah, it doesn't work.
It didn't play, and we get rid of it. But there's no need to do that. So might as well throw it in.
But I think they also, because the original plan, he has even said, was to release it in parts. as like a episodic series.
Yeah.
And like it's still cut into chapters, but
He said that originally he thought about doing that, but then with contracts or whatever, they couldn't figure it out, so they just stuck with the movie. But that brings up a good point. What did you guys think about the chapters format of this?
I mean, what I think about is in a graphic novel, sometimes they have chapters.
And that's it.
Like
that would have been like if this were a how many in total were there like officially
6 plus an epilogue.
Well, 7 with the epilogue.
Okay, so like this would have been a 6-issue one shot,
Right.
and that would have been the title of each one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Something like that. Right.
Yeah.
I liked the chapter markers, and I thought it worked well. I think it works as a good way to go, oh, if you need to, you could pause it here, because like there's a lull in the action. Like now's a good time, instead of like The Irishman where it's anyone's guess. I haven't seen it, so
There's no break in that movie. There's no break in that movie.
yeah. I think this movie would have been a lot more tougher to chew through if it wasn't chaptered.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's definitely possible.
It's hard for me to remember a lot of chaptered movies. Like the only ones I can really think of are like Tarantino movies a lot of the times. Which like I guess you can call that art house, but he's very like a Hollywood outsider that like made a niche for himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't like in those movies like there's definitely a change happening from chapter to chapter. Like even just like the tone changes, but there wasn't really like a tone shift. And a lot of the content of the chapters didn't really add up to much. It was like there's a scene that applies to like the title of this chapter, but the whole chapter doesn't really work towards.
Yeah. And really, like if you're gonna cut it up into chapters, like wouldn't it have, I guess, made more logical sense to be like the Flash and give you his thing, and Aquaman and give you his thing, and then all together now, and like you know what I mean, like. Instead of doing it in that way. But like I don't know that it necessarily added to the experience for me, but I don't know what it would be like without having those hard cuts to black with text on screen.
Because in my first watch through, like I paused it a few times, and I know Joe, like you took a break in between the epilogue.
Yeah, you stopped at the fucking epilogue, which drove me insane.
Because first, like I forget what I stopped for, probably just to like go to the bathroom. At like it was around the 2-hour mark because we were in Atlantis, I remember, and I remember seeing the scrubber being like not even halfway through, and I was like, oh my fucking god, because this is like a quarter of your waking day. This whole movie. But yeah, I needed to go to IKEA. So I did just kind of leave the epilogue for like a day, and honestly, like where the movie ends, like
it ends.
Yeah. And like, but okay, no. So the first half of the epilogue I do appreciate as an end on the movie. That's a good like kind of cool down after the action stops to be like, this is where we're leaving the characters.
Yeah.
And then the night, like we'll talk about the nightmare scene, but like I didn't think that was necessary.
Here's a question that I had kind of adjacent to the mother boxes. In the flashback when Darkseid is on Earth and like fucking shit up, didn't he know then that Earth was the anti-life equation planet? He didn't?
No.
Okay.
He didn't even know until later.
Yeah,
didn't Steppenwolf find out?
Yes, Steppenwolf discovers it in a vision that he has when two mother boxes are together, and he is like taking energy or like he's like touching them for some reason, like just to see what they do, I guess.
Yeah.
And he's like suddenly brought to like where it is and shit. Like he's given the vision. Because the mother boxes aren't like, they said that they're not like good or evil.
Right.
They just like they're showing him the thing that he wants, I guess.
Okay. For some weird reason I thought that like he knew and then like forgot that it was the anti-life equation planet or something.
Well, so
it
to me it wasn't clear. Like he was searching for. He destroyed like what was it, 100,000 worlds, and to try to find the primitive planet that stuck up. So he didn't know what planet it was that he even was defeated on.
Yeah.
And he's seen so many that he can't possibly remember, I think is what the onus of that was trying to be, right?
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the anti-life equation is like the most catastrophic thing that an evildoer can get their hands on, because it takes away, like, you're able to take away the living free will of other living beings or something like that. Like, that's like the total end all of it. So he's able to, like, control, as we see later, Superman with anti-life.
That's great, but they don't ever tell us that. They just say this thing, and
Yeah.
I'm like, what does that fucking mean?
Yeah.
Within the context of the movie, they say take over or take control of the multiverse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, they kind of set it up to be anything,
Yeah.
you
But-
know?
To that end, what does chaos magic mean?
Yeah.
You know, like, they just say a thing and it's, you know, depending on the context, you go, oh, like,
Yeah, but I hear, like, anti-life equation, and I'm like, oh, it's going to kill people.
yeah.
No, yeah, that's a good point. I think that's just one of the things, like, if you've read comics where the anti-life equation was featured, then
Yeah.
you'd be like, oh, okay.
The anti-life. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Well, Cheyenne even was asking me questions like, well, what is that? Because I don't even know.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
so it just the message was lost
Yeah.
within the
Yeah.
context
No, I don't
of the
think that
film.
I'm not saying that they fucking explained it in any way that I think was suitable. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they just kind of said, like Joe said, they just said it and kind of moved on. But
Yeah.
it also, I don't know that, like, they wanted to dwell on having to explain right now what it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Because
know?
then it could lead to another exposition dump.
Right.
that we don't
where we get, like,
necessarily
Desaad talking to a fucking parademon and he's like, the anti-life equation. Oh.
Well, you
scores
know all
a year-
about this. There's like
Right.
the new parademon in town. And he just got hired. and,
I
like,
loved
he's-
how they explained how he amasses parademons.
Yeah.
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, he hasn't had the mother boxes to create the Unity for 5,000 years or whatever. So, do they reproduce, or like?
No.
He just had the
it's-
same.
When he destroys a planet,
Yeah, when he conquers a world.
whenever he conquers a world, all of the beings that are still alive
Right.
are, like, transformed or
transformed.
turned over. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they become the parademon. So it has nothing necessarily to do with the mother boxes. But the mother boxes don't necessarily... I don't think the mother boxes necessarily terraform as much as they... I think they described it as like a fireball going across the surface of the earth. Like, once the unity is achieved, you get that...
Yeah.
And that's, like, the destruction of Earth as we know it.
So the way that I understand that is there's multiple sets of mother boxes. These were just the ones they left behind. And once one awakened, that's when Steppenwolf was like, oh shit, that's the planet.
Right.
There's mother boxes there. I can go conquer it.
Got it. Okay.
Right,
I mean, if there's an existence of additional mother boxes, I don't think that they made that clear at all.
No,
Yeah, I don't
No,
but
yeah,
that's
I
just
agree.
the way that my brain interpreted that. I'm doing the writing for them.
They just lost 3 of them along the way, and he went to go get them.
Could be wrong. I watched the movie once. So what did we think of Steppenwolf as a villain in this movie?
He's very, like, kind of standard villain up until he gets the first mother box and he contacts Desaad.
Yeah.
And, like, taking the care to, like, put that, like, kind of childlike fear in his eyes, and, like, his brow goes up. It really brought out the performance from the CG. Whereas, like,
Yeah.
outside of those conversations, like, he's very just, like, angry man.
I'm here
Yeah,
to destroy the world.
That's what I was going to say about Steppenwolf is that they made a point to make his eyes very expressive.
Yeah.
And I think that helps in, like, giving you that little bit of, like, sympathy for him.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I
Because
mean?
when he
Like,
makes, like, sad puppy dog eyes at a certain point, and I was like, "Oh, poor Steppen," because he's kind of like middle management. And if the plan, if everything goes to plan, he's a sacrificial lamb.
Yeah.
And like it's a suicide mission.
Right.
Like there's no winning. If he fails, they kill him. But if he wins and gets all 3 mother boxes to do the Unity, the fucking planet is destroyed and he's there. He can't boom tube out of there before the Unity happens because they are stopping him from that. So he's like between a rock and a fucking hard place that entire time, which makes it all the more interesting to watch that fight because now he's got stakes.
Yeah.
Like they've got stakes. Like they have to stop him to save the Earth, but if he doesn't stop them, he's gonna fucking die.
Yeah, and he has that. He says something about like I just want to go back home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, like
He's
I
so
feel like
over
that's-
being on this.
This
fucking
isn't my
planet.
work.
Yeah.
It's also telling that like Superman's the only one who really could deal with him, but even he is afraid of something more.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
Like Jordan said, like everybody being basically gods on this team, but there's a super god who's waiting.
Right.
Yeah, because it speaks to like how powerful Darkseid would be if he were to lift a finger here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like if the only thing like Steppenwolf couldn't handle Superman, but Superman's the only thing that could handle Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
Except maybe Diana if she had like a little bit more time and probably some more help.
Yeah. Because she's the only one that came close.
I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like Aquaman held his own also, but like you definitely don't want Cyborg fighting him, and you definitely don't want Flash fighting him, and Batman isn't even in the fucking room
Yeah.
Yeah.
because he knows that there's no chance of surviving that, so he's gonna fucking deal with the outside, which is such a fucking awesome scene to watch him be the Batman that entire time, which was I fucking loved that.
Yeah. I really liked Steppenwolf. I really liked his motivation. He acted like such a fucking badass, just swinging his axe and taking out Amazons.
Well, he used it more like a golf club at one point.
He threw a horse.
That was an incredible scene, start to finish. I'm really glad that scene got additional time in this movie. And the Amazons just looked like a bunch of incredible warriors that they like should be. You know?
They really hold up.
That
They're
just
like
that all
crazy.
made me really happy, like seeing Themyscira like that and watching that dome fall.
But I love I love the thought behind the design of that temple.
Yeah.
Like they got that mother box and immediately started construction on a remote island part of the thing up against the cliff, and they built it so that if any shit goes down, we're just going to take these fucking pillars out and the thing's going to crumble into the sea. Like that was the fate of that building no matter what. And I just love like how practical that is, but how like logical for their I don't know, like technology level or whatever, like they're doing that makes so much like that's something that you would find in like Greece or what, like in that area, something like that would be like one of the wonders of the world that you would see, like, oh, the dome that they built for the thing that we don't know about.
The scene in the field definitely played well to me. The action inside the dome was good, but that was a point where Hippolyta, one, like, she has the mother box and then she, like, turns very slowly to, like, slowly run up a wall. And I'm like, all right. But, like, the action just freezes for her to have a conversation there. And it's like, he's right there. Like, you need to get out of there. It's just an awkward thing. And she's running down the hallway. And then she stops to help the Amazon who's fighting to get her out. Yeah. Even though you're going to seal her in and throw her into the ocean anyway. It was just, like, a really weird, like, illogical thing.
I didn't like in that scene how when the parademons come out of the boom tube and we're up on the wall with a couple of the Amazons as they're like notching their bows and stuff like that. One of the two of them just kind of like fly out from underneath it and then like really take their time to like float around in front of them for a second. And I'm like, nobody else in the room is going to deal with. Okay.
They really had like
enough time to kind of present themselves there, which is probably a creative decision, but at the same time, like, they probably would have been catching some sort of ricochet or from someone on the other side of the room they're all fighting there. Like, there's no way that there's no arrow flying through that. They just, like... So I imagine that there's a contingent of Amazonians that are, like, damned to be, like, hanging out there all the time, or is it because the mother box made noise that they sent people there to watch it?
I think it always had some guard, and then, like, once it crashed,
then they were like,
okay, yeah, everybody else.
I was like, wow, are they really just willing to get rid of 50 of their own people at any time? Holy shit. Like, they're all just hanging out in that temple every day. They're shift changing, like, it's a whole thing. But no, I was gonna say that fucking really sweet Batmobile scene, and in this film is framed 100% differently than what it was in the other film. I like the Batmobile scene was awesome, and the action surrounding that and all of the little things that they did. Like, we got the same movements from Aquaman, but they felt way different here than they did in the previous film. Diana in that scene is awesome. She's cutting people in half and shit. Cyborg is awesome. And that dude, when he took out that whole city block with his lasers and shit, like, I was like, oh shit. Like, he's not fucking around right now.
Barry got shot twice.
Yeah.
But did. So that all leads to Barry running back in time, and that's not something that we've talked about yet.
No.
What the fuck, dude?
I think that's my favorite moment in the film. I think it's my favorite moment in any DC film ever.
First of all, I did not expect it at all.
Nope.
And it, like, as it started to happen, I literally stood up off of the couch and had my jaw, like, because I could not believe that they were doing that and how fast he would, like, holy shit. It was so good.
And they teased it earlier when he brought Superman back, and I thought that was going to be the extent of it. I was like, oh, we're going to get a Flashpoint movie, like, whatever. And then the Unity happens, and we watch
the Earth get destroyed.
And he stops it, and my heart, like, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing, and just the way they did his speed in general. They presented it in a way that's unique and different, where it's more like, instead of him just running fast, he's, like, manipulating time around him.
Yeah.
And, like, I just think that's so fucking cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sick.
But, like, so all of that sets up talking about the Knightmare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's what makes the epilogue Knightmare scene and then the BVS Knightmare scene so important, because I think that decision by him, all by himself, to do that, which I think is also important for that character going forward, is the flashpoint of these movies.
Yeah, but so the thing is, Cyborg has that vision of the Knightmare.
Yeah.
Right before they resurrect him. So I think the fact that they bring back Superman sets them on the course to Knightmare.
No matter what. Okay.
And, like, the Knightmare scene is when Darkseid comes, because they've, put a target on their back. So Darkseid comes and he succeeds. So, like, they really just kind of prolonged his takeover.
Okay.
And then, yeah, like you said with the anti-life thing, I guess that is... I was thinking it was an Injustice thing, which I guess his plan was to mix Injustice with the anti-life equation type of storyline.
Yeah, it definitely seems like the idea behind Injustice is part of the thing that's fueling the idea for this bad Superman that he's hinting at in the Knightmare.
But I do think, like, the fact that Barry did do this will have some kind of, like, butterfly effect.
But then, so what you're saying is that it's not two timelines.
Yeah.
It's one, and no matter what, we're getting to Knightmare because they brought him back.
It seems like the movie implies that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's still to come. Like, that stuff hasn't happened yet.
Okay. No, I mean, it just seemed like to me, it seemed like we were living in two realities at that point when we see both of those things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it seemed like, oh, here's the happy one. Bruce is adding people to the Justice League table. They're making the how fucking beautiful. And then on the other side of that, it's like the fallout of that decision that you don't see because the rest of the Earth is like happy and fine. But like, there's also the timeline where he fucked everything up. Like, that's what I was thinking.
That does make sense to me. Like, especially with just the fact that they're coming to Bruce as nightmares.
Right.
Wink. But the fact that like it's like another life, like memories seeping through from another dimension or whatever. So like that does make sense to me. It's just everything else that like we got in this movie, like especially like the conversation with Diana about like the seed of like, oh well, maybe that thing hasn't happened yet.
Right.
Yeah.
But so there's within one of the scene that Lois talks to Martha Manhunter, we see on her desk, it's not in focus necessarily, but there's like a box for a pregnancy test.
Yeah.
And she goes into the bathroom and takes it.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get what you're like. It makes sense what you're saying is that it's one timeline because this Lois is pregnant by the previously dead Superman who's now back, but she is just finding out that she's pregnant, so she hasn't dropped that news on anybody yet. You know what I mean?
Well, we don't even know if she is pregnant.
Right.
It's
but
it's a scene that is meant to like, is she?
Provoke the question.
Like, you don't know. Like, that's the way that I feel like these nightmare scenes are, is like, it's a possible future, but nothing's concrete. You know, like one simple decision could change the course of that. To
me now, it seems like Bruce we don't know what happens next. So does Bruce heed the warning that Lois is the key and prevent the nightmare, or?
Well, that's why I think that line with Diana is relevant. When he questions it and she's like,
right.
She was the key. Because it calmed down Superman. So I think he's meant to assume that's what it was meant for.
But really,
but I think that's probably the fatal flaw in that, is that it wasn't solved and he doesn't protect her.
The nightmares never stop.
Right, and then I don't think that there's anything that they could do now to get them off of the track of it. Like the nightmare is like
I don't think so,
it's a stop on the train track that they're on, and they have to go to it now. There's no escaping that future now. Yeah. I feel like it's almost cemented. Which might be why he was adding that like nightmare scene. Right. Since he went back to film it. Like, okay, I wanted to do more. I wanted to get Joker and Batman on screen together. So let's just do it. Let's throw a bone and just get it in there and see what happens. And that scene for me is like 100% successful. I wasn't crazy about Jared Leto. I loved it.
I loved it too, honestly.
Definitely an improvement from Suicide Squad. But I don't know. There's just something about. So there were ways that he acted in that movie that to me were still very Joker-y, but with this weird thing that they were doing with the tattoos and whatnot, like this weird persona that they wanted him to try to encapsulate within the Joker framework, which I didn't necessarily like. Right. But here, all of that's stripped away, and it's purely like his take on the Joker. Like there's probably never been an artist's more pure take on that character than what Jared Leto does in that scene, because it was literally him, Zach, and like a camera guy. Yeah. And Ben filming that. So it was like brain to mouth, whatever was coming out was coming out. My issue with that scene is the way that it was shot. And I'm sure that it's got to do with like COVID and all that stuff, but just the really close-up angles. Yeah, it was weird. Like, we get it. It's supposed to be a dream. It doesn't need to be like super artsy and close-up and shit. Well, I think that was more why it was blurry was that it was intended to be a dream. And I think that that's how they explain away Joker not having the tattoos that we know he has in real life, that we've seen
I think
already.
it's just paint over him. I think it's just makeup over him.
Well, I mean, it's entirely possible, but I'm saying in a dream, you don't necessarily remember all of the details, and you don't see everything clearly, and when you wake up, it's kind of fuzzy. So that's, to me, what that camera was trying to play with, was like, he's seeing it, but like, you know, like when you dream something and you know it's that person, but they're clearly not that person. Like, that's like the idea, I feel like.
I'm just saying it didn't work for me on screen. I get the reasoning behind it. It just didn't.
I got it. I mean, it's way over the top regardless. Like, I'll agree that it's like way over the top.
That the rest of that scene though, like the addition of Cyborg, the addition of Flash, the addition of Mera, like that all worked for me. Deathstroke, awesome.
Yeah.
Like the Joker Batman stuff was jarring to me, and I think it might have had to do with what Jared Leto was saying, how he was like making the reach around joke, and it made me be like, oh my god, it's Jared Leto. Like, so I think I need to just go back and rewatch it.
Yeah,
because I've only seen it once.
It plays so well. I feel like it plays so well.
But I'm just saying, like, in that first playthrough for me, didn't land.
It's a very like strange little analysis of the Batman Joker relationship,
Yes.
especially before he's even on screen, when Mira says, "Have you ever loved anyone?" and then we pan to the Joker.
Right.
And like, I know, like, in the context of the scene, he's about to taunt him about all the people he's loved, but like, it's such a weird relationship with the Joker where like it's not like a sexual thing, even though like he taunts him about it, but there's some weird like romantic tension between the two characters,
and that's played up in every comic book that has the two of them together.
Yeah,
exactly.
Every time.
Dude, here's all I'm gonna say about it. The idea of Batman and the Joker being forced to team up to fight Superman is a fucking gold mine. It's a fucking gold mine, because they could have such an emotional story arc.
Because
like,
who has Bruce been through more with?
Yeah.
Like,
dude, just imagine them like dying together at the end. Like, no, seriously, like.
You know, and you know what's perfect is that this is episode 52, because that was the end of the run of the New 52 Batman story, is that Batman and Joker died together.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
But I just...
Spoilers.
I do agree with, I think the team up of Batman and Joker in a post-apocalyptic world, I think it makes sense. I think that's something the Joker would absolutely do.
It also had Last Night on Earth vibes in a way.
Yeah.
Because that it kind of explored that too, where Joker's like a head in a lantern jar and they're talking the whole time. But I mean, I liked that Batman told him he was going to fucking kill him. Like, I like that.
That line made sense to me. When they got serious, their interaction worked really well.
Everyone's fucking dead.
Right, it doesn't matter
anymore. He's not the same fucking person, Batman.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah. He's just, Joker still has a utility to him, so that's why he hasn't killed him yet.
Right.
And then he's like rolling his eyes at the shit he's saying, and everybody's going, "Really? Do we have to keep dealing with?" Like, I want that movie.
Yes. Yes.
I would watch 6 hours of that tomorrow.
Well, I think that would be a really good HBO Max series, like a 10-episode HBO Max produced
KnightMare.
Post-apocalyptic
That's all it's called.
KnightMare.
Yeah.
That's it. But I mean, like I said, if this is all we got, I'm satisfied.
Yeah. It's cool to imagine like how they got there and why, like all of that stuff plays. And like at the beginning when they're like talking about he'll see us, or he'll do this, or he'll do that, I mean, we're all thinking it's Darkseid.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that the idea that it's Superman ever even enters anybody's mind until you hear the boom that they always play when he flies through like the atmosphere.
Well, I think Mira is talking about Darkseid, because she says he'll pay for what he did to Arthur.
Right,
and you see Darkseid like lasering, or no,
Yeah. But you saw that
stabbed him with
earlier.
the
But like,
trident.
you don't necessarily know that Superman didn't put Arthur in a position that happened.
oh yeah, good.
It's like
point.
what he did to Arthur could be
Yeah, good-
Superman
yeah.
having him in the, fighting him on his own or something like that.
Right.
So I think it's like the Nightmare and the epilogue for it for me is just like such an awesome thought project of like what could be, and from what we got, like trying to cobble the pieces of that together, because I feel like the end of the Nightmare sequence that we get in BV, or like the Nightmare sequence that we get in BVS, is after this, after what we see here.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so
yeah.
too.
Because I think Bruce Wayne, Superman like rips Bruce Wayne's chest out or some shit. His heart
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Because
So I feel like
that's where that's where it ends. Like
Right.
Superman has his hand on his chest.
Which I'm just thinking about this now is kind of funny because Flash is too soon, and that message or that visual for Bruce is like too late in where they're at in the story. Because if he saw this one in BVS, it would be a different trajectory for that group, I feel like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's more people, and he'd be like, okay, you're like, he's looking more up and like trying to find out more information.
Yeah.
As opposed to seeing just Superman capturing him and that being it, and being like double crossed by some fucking soldiers or whatever.
Right.
Like, that's way more impactful if he saw this, but obviously like you couldn't. You know what I mean? But I think that one is the end part of what we see here, which I think is really cool.
Which we also get a clip of Superman like flying, and then he like tosses away the mask. Like
on
Batman's
top of the newly retrofitted and then freshly destroyed Wayne Manor that became the Hall of Justice, with Aquaman's thing, and then there's the Joker card flying in the air, and Kilowog is dead on the floor there, and then Superman tosses the mask onto the fucking pile of rubble.
Yeah.
Like, so fucking cool.
So like that's in my brain the end of the Nightmare.
Yeah.
It's just weird the placement in the epilogue where they had that Nightmare sequence for me.
But it's just like so then the film ends, but then you're like, that's the like takeaways. You're like,
Yeah.
because I feel like it brought everybody up. Like that last hour 30 of this movie for me is like fucking perfect, and I will mainline it into my veins. But that first rest of it is like, I don't necessarily.
Well, I'm just saying
have to
like
watch
what
all
they're
that.
showing you in the Nightmare and when they're showing it to you is weird.
Yeah, but I think that's all probably. I feel like that's kind of probably by design.
Sure. Yeah.
Is to make you be like, where is, how is this, when does he kill, when does he do, like, all that kind of stuff. Because like, and we talked about the ones that Cyborg saw, like the flashbacks that he saw, and he's the one that sees Arthur die.
Yeah.
And the funeral for Diana.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But what I did not like about that is that being the first time I see Superman's face. Because the first time that we see him, he's in a black suit. He's holding the freshly burned corpse of what we're assuming is Lois Lane inside the Batcave.
Yeah.
Which is... and Darkseid's right behind him and puts his hand on his shoulder. There's like a lot to fucking digest out of that visual.
Yeah.
And that's like the first time we see Superman in this movie, which I don't know that I necessarily like that that's the first time that I see him.
Okay.
That's fair. I didn't even think about it that way.
Any final thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League before we wrap this one up and close it out?
It's vastly improved. There's some shit in there that maybe doesn't need to be in there, but it's in there because it's already 4 hours long. There's a lot of great moments. All of the acting is fucking great. Soundtrack can get annoying at times.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Also, close out with your favorite scene.
Yeah.
Why not?
Shit. Shit, what is my favorite scene? I guess my favorite scene would be like Superman like cold breathing Steppenwolf's axe.
So cool.
And then like just smashing it. I mean, yeah, that's probably my favorite scene.
I loved this movie. I will definitely watch it again. I want to, one of these days, do a marathon of Man of Steel, BVS, and Zack Snyder's Justice League, and just see where my mind's at afterwards. But I feel like...
Now you're speaking my language. That's like a 13-hour day.
I
feel like it would work incredibly well back to back to back.
I think so,
yeah.
I think we'd see way more parallels. I think there are more parallels than we've even cracked the surface of.
Oh, for sure. Without a fucking doubt, dude.
So I'm just very excited that this even was a thing that happened. I'm very grateful. I'm very satisfied. And the fucking Flash running back in time was incredible. It was my favorite scene. Make your own past, make your own future. It's all right now. And I love that.
I mean, and it's quite literal for him.
Yeah.
Is that time is on the tips of his feet. Like
Right.
So it works every possible way, I feel like.
I think it's a good movie. I think it definitely could have been a lot tighter, and I've already said I think it should have been. I feel like it's trying to be a couple different movies, whether it be like a mini Aquaman and Flash movie, and honestly like a mini movie for every character, and also like trying to be part of a sequel at the same time. I know one of like the studio execs like trying to do PR around the thing that was toxic for Warner Brothers said something like, oh, like Zack got to finish his trilogy, which like he didn't. Like this doesn't really finish the Man of Steel story at all, and it definitely like leaves so many threads open for Justice League, which I found pretty frustrating. Like I wish it was a little more closed-ended. I know he was trying to make what he originally wanted, but I think it would have been useful to make something a little more final.
Okay.
As far as my favorite scene, I liked the kind of like Tomb Raider Diana scene, where she finds all the like the hieroglyphics and stuff like that.
Nice, yeah.
I thought it was a really nice way to bring her world into this conflict, and that's how she finds out the story that she tells Bruce, and she's able to just relay all of that just from these images, which was a really cool little seed. And it was just a very, like, the set design of that whole thing was beautiful. So I really enjoyed that. I don't know if I'm ever going to watch this again. It's so long.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's fine. You watched it once and you got to talk about it. So now your final thoughts on it are forever etched into the universe's canon. So if we'll
get drunk at Christmas and you guys will make me watch it, and I'll just scream the whole time.
So when it ended, I don't know that I was in love with it, but like chewing on it and like, oh, we got that. Oh, we got that. Oh, we got, like, the more you kind of pull apart what you see, you're like I'm just very satisfied with how this turned out. 'Cause this like could have been a disaster. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm just so glad that like he got to tell most of the story that he intended on telling. Do I want more from the Snyderverse as it's been like dubbed? Yes. I want it right now. I read something right before we started recording that Warner Brothers said no to an Ayer cut of Suicide Squad, which I think is a fucking mistake, because I think there's a huge market for that. If they even could comprehend the amount of people that used that movie as a doorway into starting cosplay and all the other stuff that came with the designs from that movie, to not give that guy his proper due, which would have tied into this because the faceless villains in Suicide Squad are actually supposed to be fucking parademons. They're not supposed to be faceless.
Yeah.
And the guy that that the Enchantress possesses at the end of that movie isn't supposed to be her fucking no-name brother that nobody cares about. It's supposed to be Steppenwolf there with her.
Right.
So that frames that movie entirely differently. And then there's more to do with Harley and Joker, which would help, I think, everybody out in terms of understanding their relationship when you get to Birds of Prey. But whatever. They're not going to do it because they like to shit on money that they could have to spite themselves. So, and I think that they prove that over and fucking over again, like they did when they meddled in this movie originally. Yeah. So it's a studio that can't fucking help itself, really.
Yeah.
And I think the thing with the Ayer cut too is it's a simple re-edit. Like, it's not like that footage doesn't exist.
It's all there. He has all of it. Yeah. He should just fucking do it and leak it himself. He should just do it and leak it himself and be like, I don't know what happened. Somebody from Russia fucking found it. It's so difficult in a movie with so much to try to, like, nail down what you liked. But, like, starting with Superman's rebirth is, like, where I really fucking just fall in love with this movie. I know that that's, like, 238 into it. I know that. But, like, from that moment on, I feel like it does no wrong at all. And it's just, like, super fucking enjoyable. I like all the people in all of these roles, so, like, I want more of it. I want to see that, like, even if they don't let him do KnightMare on film, like, how hard would it be for that guy to make a fucking comic book? Like,
yeah,
really? With if his script has the visuals in it the way that it seems the fuck that he understands it, it should be really simple for him to bang that out.
Yeah.
So there's really no excuse for us to not get that in one form of content or another going forward. You know what I mean? If you can't have Affleck do it because he doesn't want to be Batman anymore, and you can't, timing doesn't work out, this, that, and the other thing, fucking COVID still, like, there's still a way to get that idea across. There's no reason that it should sit dusted up and let him drop fucking ideas on Vero for it. More! I got 4 hours and I fucking want more.
Well, so this has been our thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League, which we've really just scratched the surface. If you would like, though, you could interact with us on social media at Pop Kannon and talk about it with us some more. You could also follow us on social media, some of us. Myself, you could find on Twitter and Instagram at JL24FPS.
I am on Twitter and Instagram at Yesball.
I'm on those at Joe for Broke.
Okay, moving on.
And you can't find Paul because he's
I quit computers. I quit them.
For Lent, right? Paul's not doing computers for Lent, you guys.
If you would like to, you could also subscribe on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube so that you don't miss any episodes. And you could see our beautiful faces.
Also, if you would be so inclined, drop a rating and a review for us, especially, but not limited to, on Apple Podcasts.
Let us know what you thought of the Snyder Cut. Let us know if you thought that it was everything you wanted and more, or did it leave you wanting more?
I qualify as both.
And as always, stay tuned for the next episode. For Pop Kannon, my name is Jordan.
I'm Robert.
I'm Paul.
I'm Joe.
The recording's over 2 hours. It's over. We gotta stop. All right? We're just cutting now.